All right, welcome back, everybody, to the EU LCS. G2 are in a must-win fight here in Game 2 against Roccat, as another loss is going to put an end to their hopes to get first place in Group A. And Roccat, when nothing is on the line for them, Stress, they show up and they smack down G2.
They do. Good win from Roccat, a hard-earned win. And they have selected blue side. They're like, let's play the side of our team colors. Everything will be great. Put G2 on the red side.
This time, at least, it won't get confusing to look at in-game, right?
Exactly. Don't know quite exactly how that's going. But for G2, the last game wasn't necessarily dictated by Roccat having the counter pick. When it comes to the last pick of the draft, it was a lot more to do with that Kalista, which was in the first rotation that G2 let through. Now that might be why why Roccat selected blue side, because they're expecting to now have G2 either let that open or Roccat get the Zac themselves.
Yeah, well, the Kalista is going to be banned by G2 right off the board, so that is clearly what G2 are recognizing as the major threat. But, you know, kudos to the performance overall of Pridestalker Wadid, keeping Hjarnan alive. I think they could substitute hypercarry elsewise. Now the Lucian's taken off the board and the Zac is banned as well. I
like these two bans. I think you'll also probably see the Thresh come through. That'll leave likely the Rakan available for Roccat later on in the draft if they want it. Roccat, looking at what they banned in the last game, also took the Elise off the table. One of the picks. Did you always have to ban on red side? I like the Roccat banning it on blue side just because they're not prioritizing it as a first pick for themselves.
All right, G2. What is their last choice? Remember, they banned Rengar previously against Pridestalker, but then he takes a Gragas, stock standard tank jungler, and is able to set up insane fights. So G2 aren't going to try to go down that rabbit hole. Instead, they ban the Rakan away.
Okay, the Rakan's gone. That leaves Thresh available if Roccat wants it. Cho'Gath is up as well, but we've seen less priority on the Cho'Gath on 7-15 as a first pick.
Do it, Roccat.
You're getting very excited about the Rengar. Now, that might get locked in because it is where Pridestalker's namesake comes from, but I'm more expecting that Gragas as a jungler.
All right, he played it really well last game. I can't get mad, but man, when I see Pridestalker and Rengar, I'm just like, flashback to solo queue montage moments. I just want to see it, but that's okay. Play it meta, play it standard.
The guy years ago when he was like 13 or 14 was saying, hey, I'm a challenger Rengar player. Look at me. There's a one-trick, but
then he did an AMA and said, I can't just one-trick forever.
Right, and then he's not one-tricking forever anymore, which is good because he's seen growth as a player. Now, G2 lock what they believe to be the best AD carry that hasn't been banned, and that is the Tristana. I think Roccat, although they wouldn't get the Xayah Rakan combo, may still look towards the Xayah. We're also expecting Roccat at some point to start picking the Sivir up a whole lot more.
I was going to say, that was kind of the thing that Hjarnan honestly made a name for himself on last year. And we could very well see it again. Now, it's back over to Rockat's pick as the J4 was locked in. Some noise on the comms right now.
Yeah, Roccat are being very excited. I want to see, actually, I think Nasus is a pick that Roccat are likely to pick up at some point.
Oh, it's a Sivir.
Oh,
and the Janna.
Sivir, Janna. Wadid is excited about playing Janna.
Is a
might be the only person.
Well, you just insulted like all 5 of the Janna mains out there.
Well, no, I just mean that Wadid is excited to play Janna in the LCS. A lot of supports don't like playing Janna, but so fun now on the disengage style. Look, you got a Jarvan wants to engage. You got Tristana is going to try and hop forward. Now you got the on the hunt with Sivir. You've got yourself the Janna on top of it. I'll explain the Nasus when it gets banned away because it's very likely to get banned. Ooh, last second change.
Okay, so they swap it up to the Gnar. So expect manages to grab that one. It's once again a takeaway from Phaxi. So unfortunately for him, you know, there won't be a taxi ride. He might have to take an Uber instead to the top lane.
Maybe he'll just walk. It'll be a long road to walk, but at this point. Okay, mid laners are available. The Syndra is there. We had the LeBlanc banned in the last game. Now, the Jace is a matchup that you can play into the Gnar, which is one reason why we're seeing it banned away. Other matchups that you can at least survive through. We see people try and do the Rumble matchup, but again, can be difficult.
Cho'Gath is still up and available, but we have seen Gnar play well into it.
We've also seen Cho do well into Gnar. Like, this is a back and forth I've been trying to track a little bit. Until that matchup is completely figured out, like, Cho just has a lot of sustain in the lane and eventually gets tanky enough. It's only when you gank the Cho'Gath a significant amount that you actually can put him behind.
And you know, Phaxi has not actually played the Cho'Gath, but it's left up and available. Alistair banned out by Roccat on one of their last choices. Of course, G2 focused with LeBlanc on the mid.
Braum is a possibility here for the Tristana combination, looking at others. Thresh found his way all the way through the ban phase, but kind of difficult into Janna. That Braum is, I guess, easier, quote-unquote, because you can sit further back and play defensive. With the Orianna now, Betsy may go the Syndra route, which is a lane matchup. Might see the Talia come through as well, another pushing matchup in the lane. I want to see the Nasus. He's been playing it in solo queue in the mid lane.
Got banned the last time around.
Yeah.
It's always possible.
You can push in Orianna with it. I don't think it's an amazing pick, but it's certainly something I was watching out. Oh, do it! He's playing the Irelia matchup.
Oh, Phaxi has just locked in Irelia. Oh,
He's like,
I love it.
Okay, you want to play my champion? Now let me show you the matchup that beats it. Irelia, good matchup into Gnar. You can stick onto mini Gnar and kill him, basically by dashing to him at almost any point and just take over the side lane. Gnar suddenly doesn't have as much presence as he normally would. And I like that because of that, they end up picking up the Syndra alongside it. You want that early game as well, because you've got to supplement the fact that Sivir, you're waiting for later on in the game. There's a decent amount of Roccat wave clear in this game on top of it all, and they're trying to play the disengage game again. And what goes well with the disengage? A side lane split pusher like an Irelia that can take control over the Gnar.
Well, I think Phaxi is going to be looking for some revenge, because he got turned into a pair of boots multiple times last game and ended up being just a big meat shield for the Roccat lineup. This time, they put Irelia in his hands and expect we'll have to tangle with that up in the top lane as Gnar. Mithy gets the last lock-in. It is going to be the Thresh that did make it all the way through. We'll see if they're able to make that one work. G2 Esports, though, do seem to have a pretty potent team fight. A lot of targets for that Orianna ball.
Yeah, if they can get that. That's the key thing. Big team fight presence out of G2, whether it's pick potential or Jarvan plus Orianna plus the Gnar follow-up, but you've got the Janna on the other side for Roccat. You've got the Syndra to disengage. You've got Sivir to at least give it a little bit of movement speed, get the spell shield through. You've got the Gragas to disengage, and all the while, Phaxi will have control of the side lane.
Big stakes for G2 Esports. They are, of course, locked into playoffs, but if they lose this game, they will be locked out of that #1 position. The 3-time defending European LCS champions heading into playoffs. They need to shore up those weaknesses. Roccat showed them up last time around, and they might just be able to do it again. We don't call these guys the Kingslayers for nothing, Stress. They know how to put the hurt on top teams, and they are going all in here. The Irelia locked in. Pridestalker on the Gragas. Was able to protect Hjarnan last time around, and Hjarnan on a signature Sivir. It is the Roccat team composition, and the crowd is pumped for this matchup. We will see how it all unfolds as we get ready for game #2 between Roccat and G2 Esports.
I'm very hyped about this game now that we got the Irelia, we got the Sivir that we wanted to see. This is exactly what we wanted out of Roccat.
And I love that last time in the spring split, Roccat nearly knocked Fnatic out of playoffs with their miracle run. If you think all the way back to that. I know it was a long time ago in spring. And now they're on the verge of giving them the first seed. It's like they swapped sides in this war. They just like showed up at G2's house, like put a knife to their throat, and were like, Fnatic, send their regards.
What you're telling me is Roccat refused to bend the knee.
Yes. They kill kings, they do not kneel to them.
Well, we'll see how this one ends up going. This game has a lot of interesting components to it now. The most standard one of the game, I think, is the Syndra versus Orianna matchup. To reiterate, it'll be Syndra pushes the early game, Orianna will be able to take control after a few levels at least, and it doesn't have the most amount of kill threat unless you get ganked. If Pridestalker goes mid lane for Betsy, that can end up working now. If Mithy comes in, he's got Flay available. Flash Flay would be a difficult one to get a kill because there's no hook follow-up at level 1.
Yes, they decide not to pull the trigger in. That mid lane matchup, as you said, it might be a little bit slower. However, I like out of lane for Perkz because last time around, he picked up that Lucian. He tried to stay safe, and I don't know, I feel like it just didn't do enough.
It didn't, and I think it's a pick that a lot of fans watching at home will say, G2 should just never pick the Lucian. And that isn't necessarily correct. They haven't had success with it, but it's not been about the Lucian itself. Perkz had a great game in the last game when you look at it, actually solo killing Betsy. If he can do the same, that would actually be a little counter what the matchup should have now. If Betsy should be the one, if anything, having kill pressure. And now we get to watch a Janna lane in action, which is basically Janna shield Sivir, and damage comes through, but it'll kind of end up being okay because through Hjarnan's ability to sustain through the lane, everything will be fine, and Mithy, without landing a hook on Wadid, will struggle to actually get any damage down.
I'm wondering if this isn't an opportunity, though, for Trick to have some early presence on this Jarvan, going down to the bottom side. We'll talk about it in a moment because Phaxi was trading out with Expect. This matchup, of course, is going to be a pretty interesting one to watch, and that might be where we see the jungle pressure as well.
Yeah, so Phaxi hits level 2 early, is able to Q onto Wadid, hit him as well with Equilibrium Strike, and is able to kind of go, okay, I win this trade. And as long as you're mini Gnar, I will continue to do this. I'll kill a minion, jump onto you, just make sure I get all the damage down, and then suddenly, at some point, pretty much around that, after you've got Sheen towards Trinity Force, Phaxi will even be able to solo kill Expect, if Expect misplays.
As always, yeah. Okay, Pridestalker, he gets the smite down, but Trick actually, instead of going to lanes, opted to try and harass him out of the jungle. Gets a speed boost courtesy of the Scuttle Crab. Perkz was there for defense as well. There won't be the fight.
Phaxi was heading down. Now, Perkz has actually been able to push Betsy in more than you would anticipate, but here's a trade in the middle lane.
Thunderlord's proc still throwing some clock pieces. Phaxi going under tower, just outside the range, actually, as he trades out with Expect. It's going to be push city for all of these players in all of these lanes, pretty much. Betsy's the only one who's forced back. Right, and I'll touch that in a second. Perkz, Expect on the top side is going to have to farm out under tower. Bot lane, we have an exchange coming through. Okay, Tornado comes out, the hook. It's spell shielded by Hjarnan. He still takes a lot of damage from Zven, so this lane is actually starting to push back against Roccat. Back in the mid lane, Betsy taking another Thunderlord's proc. He's got to respect the ball. Right, and he's got to respect the Thunderlords because Betsy isn't running it. He's running Storm Raiders to try and move around in fights. He's going to do damage to Perkz and then be able to move back away. The problem is Perkz will out-damage him. Of course, Orianna with the empowered auto attacks using the Clockwork Wind-Up passive plus that Thunderlords actually means the trading potential for Perkz is significant when Syndra is not running it. But top lane, Phaxi, oh, the recall just came through from Pridestalker. Yeah, Trick is here. Of course, that flash and the dash already burned. Boomerang on the backside, so Phaxi's forced back. And we do get an answer to the question I posed a moment ago, that Trick is going to send his attention up top to try and give Expect a little bit of relief. It makes sense. You want to try and give that losing matchup the edge, and now without flash, Phaxi has to play a lot safer in the lane. Can't afford to push up. Speaking of safer in the lane, Phaxi TP'd back into the lane to make sure he could get everything from that big wave. Hjarnan as well didn't recall, but Wadid did recall back, and now Wadid's gold generation is going to be off the charts. Wadid is running what first emerged in LCK, and now most Jannas are running across the world, and it's the gold per 5 build, where you take gold per 5 quintessences and yellows. It means you can trade a little less effectively when it comes to your masteries because you have less mana regen, you're a little bit squishier, but your gold escalation through the game is just insane. You rush towards Ardent Sensor, when you get it, you basically win the lane and almost win the game with it. Yeah, definitely gonna have a lot of money in his pocket as this game unfolds, so for Hjarnan and Wadid, they honestly can be happy waiting it out for a little while. Zven and Mithy, though, have done their best to try and counter-push a little bit. Hjarnan, of course, on this Sivir is going to push a lot. He can clear through many waves pretty well, the Boomerang, but Wadid, he's going to be holding this lane while the Sivir did go back. Early Berserker Greaves finish up, and it's going to be answered by Zven taking himself a BF sword, so he'll have more damage to trade with, but Hjarnan is more mobile. Yeah, Hjarnan doesn't really want to take the trades, and you can see top side now. Phaxi opted for the double longsword, but is actually going to lose this trade. No flash, remember. This is trouble. Oh, no. Blind first blood, Expect. Cool guys don't look at solo kills. Oh, Phaxi had got the CS lead. He got himself double longsword. I wonder where he was going exactly with the double longswords. Traditionally, Irelia has built Trinity Force, and it means that he doesn't have anything like a Ruby Crystal in there to help himself, whereas Expect had gone double Ruby Crystal and was like, I just have more health than you, and now I'll win this trade because you don't have flash. I'd be interested to hear from Phaxi his own opinion on that trade. We won't get it right now because this is a matchup that Phaxi should be in control of, and ends up losing the solo kill. That's against what we expected. Yeah, it's a little bit of trouble up in the Roccat top side. I wonder if this isn't the time for Pridestalker to maybe come and make an appearance. Trick, remember, was already up there, but these junglers have been focused on power farming out, beating each other rather than their laners, but we got to check back in with the bottom side because there's a trade going between Hjarnan and Mithy. Wadid sends out the Tornado. It's dodged out by the G2 support. And G2 continue to be a terror in this bottom lane. Decent damage comes out from the G2 bot lane. Hjarnan does soak a lot of it through that shield that Wadid had, but of course Zven with that BF sword out trades heavily. And that's something that we have to look at. Both of these AD carries
are later game AD carries, in the sense that Tristana wants 2 to 3 items. Sivir, obviously, late game team fights will crit through. This is bad timing, Phaxi.
Still no flash. Unfortunate. He tries to get the kill, but he gets dunked on instead. Expect grabs number 2. And they did not expect the trick to be hiding in the jungle.
It feels like Phaxi is playing the matchup instead of playing the game. He had no flash, trades aggressively first time, trades aggressively the second time, and both times now gets killed. This time, because Trick was there. As you said, they didn't know he was up in the top side. That means Roccat kind of playing, can't really play around this Phaxi winning lane. Remember, he has to be the split push threat. He has to take over this matchup. The win condition for Roccat is disengage the rest of the fights and have Phaxi push the map until he wins the game.
You know, and obviously, hindsight's 20/20 here when you're sitting at 0-2, but last game, he wasn't able to make that happen on the Renekton. He got camped mercilessly. Lo and behold, in game number 2, he takes another winning matchup, at least it should be, once he starts to get up to those items. He goes over-aggressive without any backup. And G2 easily punished right now. You gotta question this as Pridestalker gets caught out by Trick. He gets a barrel back, but there's team right there. Pridestalker, what was he doing?
This has gone a little crazy out of Roccat. Pridestalker invading when his mid lane looks to be in a neutral state. His bot lane wasn't really in a position to move either. And Zven, Mithy, Perkz were all closing in on that blue buff. We can take hopefully another look at the setup here. Betsy does get shockwaved in.
That's a lot of burst. He flashes forward and the power gets unleashed. It's not enough to finish off Perkz. All summoners down on Perkz right now. Betsy had his heal. Didn't need to use that one, but trading on the ultimates. Perkz is going to be able to grab a blue buff before he heads back to base to heal up. But that was close.
It was very close. Perkz, maybe a Thunderlord spark away if it had been Betsy running Thunderlords. But hey, the Storm Raiders will likely save Betsy's life at some point in this game as well. So actually, mid lane, to be fair to Pridestalker, was starting to push. You can see Betsy opening up the trade. Bottom lane, on the other hand, doesn't have the ability to react, but there are enough wards around. Pridestalker knows he's in trouble and is trying to get out. It's the fact that bottom lane actually move up in time. And Perkz pushed mid lane super hard after that to make sure that they could get there for that kill. Perkz picks up the kill, and this looks a whole lot more convincing for G2 this game.
Yes, it does. And now Perkz, him getting a kill is definitely going to help him out in the later stages of this game. We saw last time around it was maybe not the greatest level of late game damage he was dishing, but normally Perkz has done pretty solid.
Yeah, Perkz in the laning phase, remember, got the solo kill. This is looking more holistically at their performance after Rift Rivals. Of course, Perkz at Rift Rivals, Betsy wasn't. You can see that Betsy's actually been doing better himself than a lot of people give him credit for. They move towards the Syndra style, where it's a little bit more about focusing on the lane, and you can see he's generally been ahead in a lot of the metrics, specifically in the early laning phase. I think the best thing for Roccat about that is they showed struggles initially at closing games using the Syndra, but actually adapted, looked more towards how you control objectives like Baron, like Rift Herald, utilizing the strength of the Syndra, and then going aggressive. But unfortunately, he's found out 2 versus 1.
Yeah, Trick has been all over him right now, but Pridestalker is here. Unfortunately, he flashes over the wall as Expect was coming to join the fray, and he is able to make it out, but at the cost of quite a lot of summoner spells. I think it is impressive, though, to look at those numbers from Betsy, considering the fact that we are in Europe, a region that is known for strong mid laners. It's not just a meme, it's often the truth, and he's not always one that comes up in that conversation, but
TP coming
conversation, we got to talk about this bottom lane right now. Knock the Tristana back! He's out! And he's out, but Phaxi wanted to finish it. Mithy says, get back over here! And now it is a brawl in the bot lane. Expect comes out on top. 3 kills on the Gnar.
Oh, so close and yet so far is the story of this Irelia pick. Roccat just have been inches away from kills. Perkz now closing in.
Oh boy, you're trying to juke, but that's not going to happen. Janna's shield not enough. Expect still Mega Gnar. Perkz gets kill number 2. They're going to knock down the towers. Everything is coming together for G2 in this game.
Well, you wonder whether it's download complete for G2, because we've seen this before, where game 1 looks very rough in a series out of G2. Their opponents are playing against G2 fantastically, and game 2 starts, G2 say, okay, well, we know how to win from here, and they turn everything back in their favor. Hjarnan doesn't get hit by the hook initially, and the TP comes through. Zven just buys enough time. He has flash, he has heal, and Mithy, as soon as the TP comes out, Mithy knows he has to play on the back line here because the lantern should be enough to get Zven out. Zven jumps out, only barely flashes out away from that trailing shot from Phaxi using his ultimate. Expect had matched the pace on the TP, and from there, Perkz has roamed first. Betsy was recalling under his tower, wasn't prepared to roam out of the lane at the same time, and Roccat heavily countered in their early game play.
Yeah, I think you said it. Download complete. It's borne out in the results for G2. Since Rift Rivals, and even honestly a little bit before that, like they haven't lost a series ever 2-0 in this split, to be honest. They've only dropped a handful of games. Last game was just their third in their last 6 series. Like, it's so incredible to think that that is G2's performance when you look at like dominant teams like Fnatic and you think, maybe G2's not quite at that level. They really have demonstrated a whole lot of growth in the second half of this split. And now they're taking the lead in this game in a big way.
Yeah, massive way. They have delayed Rockat's composition completely. They needed to play it. Roccat needed to play the side lane threat. They needed to have Phaxi ahead, and through Tricks visiting twice in the early game, plus some misplays here and there out of Roccat, G2 are closing out the map against Roccat, whereas Roccat didn't need the room to move. No outer towers remain for Roccat anymore, and that means no split push threat is available. Because look, mid-outer, top-outer still stand in favor of G2. This Irelia is going to have no room to move on the map.
Yeah, and so far away from completing any meaningful items, right? Double daggers turns into a stinger, right as I say it, but the rest of the team is still struggling. You need an Infinity Edge on the Sivir. You're still out your crit cloak.
But Pyra, is it enough? Is Wadid's Ardent Sensor enough to turn the tide of the game?
Well, it's 1-0 in this series so far, Stress. I don't know if it's going to be 2. Now, they caught Perkz, but Mithy was there to save the day again.
If you believe the memes, you believe in the dreams of Ardent Sensor right now. I don't know whether it's quite enough, but hey, Roccat, they do have a composition that can do well past this point. They need a lot more damage on Hjarnan before it actually gets to that point where they can take team fights, and G2 are likely not to let up on engages. But
there's a window, there's a chance.
But you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah. Don't tell me the odds, because they're probably really small. But at the moment, Roccat are pushing up the mid lane. Perkz is going to need some backup here. Trick is around, but there's a wave. Pridestalker, okay, in goes the Dragon Strike. Flag and drag, enough to push them back for the time being.
So Expect has made a minor adaptation to his build in order to compensate for the bad typical matchup against Irelia. Instead of going Black Cleaver first, he goes Frozen Mallet first. Betsy has flash.
Pridestalker's there though, they can turn this as he flashes away. Also gets the heal off. He's strong enough and just taking the edge of the damage off the ball. Pridestalker pushing them back and away. Wadid is here. G2, they can't make the big play happen. Expect this bounce Phaxi.
Sorry, Phaxi.
He's got to turn it.
Although when Gnar kicks in, Expect actually can't get the kill. That's why Mithy is here.
Oh, get back over here. Phaxi throws some Transcendent Blades, but he's surrounded by G2. And he is having a bad game.
That's the thing, is Expect is heading towards Gnar. It doesn't even matter, the rest of the team are there. They can come down. I say he can't get the kill. Yes, he can get the kill. It's just a lot harder. The mini Gnar is the one that will whittle down a low health target, and that's why you go Frozen Mallet rather than the Black Cleaver, because, look, Phaxi has only got Ninja Tabi for armor, so if you can just stick on him, you actually get the kill, and suddenly Gnar has the advantages that Gnar normally has against the melee matchup, because Phaxi is so far behind, he can't take the advantageous trades. Thinks he's walking safely up the river, and Expect just finds him, and this is painful. Phaxi knows he has to flash to try and get himself out of this. Tries to get the stun, utilizing the fact that Expect was a higher hit point value than him. And then it all goes wrong, because in comes Perkz, steals away the kill from underneath Expect's wallop.
Well, everybody was there, but I got to give some big credit to Mithy, because it seems like he's been there every single time that anyone from G2 has come even close to going down, and he just says, no, I'm going to hook you point blank, I'm going to play you away, you're not going to be able to close that gap. He saved Zven's life, he possibly saved Expect's life. He's been all over the map on this stretch.
He has. Mithy, we know what he can do on the Thresh when given it. Thresh is a significant champion on the pick threat. Speaking of pick threat,
Yeah, looked like we were going to have something unfold pretty quickly there. Now,
Mithy's
Perkz just takes some damage with Betsy. He's going to get locked up in the pit. The barrel goes in, but it's not going to matter. Perkz on a rampage with his 4th kill of the game. We're 17 minutes in now. All of G2 eyeballing that tier 2 turret. Roccat desperately trying to hang on here as they've been blanked in this game. 0-7. Hjarnan looking to change. That nearly takes down Perkz, but he lives. How much HP is that? Mithy might be left for dead. He burns the flash. Roccat aren't done. They turn over to Trick. The lantern is staying alive. The ricochet Trick. He's one more shot. Hjarnan's gonna do it. And G2, they are scattering as fast as they can, but that was some close health bars.
Yeah, Hjarnan has a lot of damage, supplemented again by that ardent sensor. It's not the major turning point. The fact that G2, they commit, they get the kills, don't stick around too long, but they don't quite respect the amount of catch potential, the chase that Hjarnan and Wadid provide there. Yeah, I mean, that's what turns the tide.
You got to think that this Irelia split push threat is not really going to be a huge factor, but when you forget about Hjarnan, that's not a mistake you should make more than once.
Well, I don't think G2 will make it too much more. You can see Perkz getting chunked down by the Sivir. Of course, 7:15, Sivir did get some buffs.
And then they were
reverted. So maybe if the buffs had stayed, this fight would have been over by now at this point. But you can see Trick easily picked off from there. Hjarnan doesn't have any other ability to catch up after the flash, after the heal, after the ult has gone down. But it's still enough to get the first kill from that. And a fight like that happens again later on isn't necessarily so G2 favored. I
mean, you look at the scoreboard, you look at what G2 have been doing this game, and you think, oh, no, they're going to be able to close this one out. But then that happens, and you can't help but thinking, well, this is Roccat, this is Hjarnan on Sivir, this is the Ardent Sensor. If there's going to be a comeback, that's the beginning of it.
It's okay. I got a pro strat for you, Pyro.
All right,
this is completely not to get better by anybody.
Here.
What we need is a moment where Wadid goes out to the side lane, puts a shield on Phaxi, and suddenly the Ardent Sensor is no longer just the AD carry being buffed. Well, in a winning matchup at that point, yeah, just put it on Phaxi. It's okay. Don't care about mid lane. It's fine. Yeah. Pridestalker can disengage that.
That is very true.
I don't think that's what's going to happen. Wadid is going to die. That is
he's a little too deep on this one. And he gets his ultimate, but he's going to be left for dead. Perkz was even covering the rest of this, and now you can see Trick actually going in off the screen on the minimap. Wadid is trying to survive for a little while, but meanwhile, the rest of his team is not faring so well. Hjarnan falls. G2, they just collapse.
Well, G2 might be looking for potentially the fastest Baron of 2017, but they're not grouping for it, so it won't be. G2 on the 20-minute mark have full control over the jungle. They're pinging it. Perkz is saying, do the Baron with me. I'll take it myself.
It might start. Here we go.
It won't be the fastest, I don't believe.
No, but it's definitely going to be very quick.
I'll get the stats
are on top of it. Well, you're getting that all confirmed up. We'll see if this fight is going to go down. Hjarnan still ticking on the death timer. Betsy trying to distract, so is Pridestalker, but he's caught on a hook. Teleport in for Phaxi right now. It's a shockwave, but not going to be where it needs to be. Unfortunately for Roccat, Expect was right there with the backline. Barry is still up right now. Phaxi's trying to go for it. It gets taken out by Perkz. It looks like they're not going to finish this fight, though. Phaxi, oh, nowhere for him to go anymore. It was a valiant effort, but they lose out big time. Baron goes down, 3 members fall, and only Trick. That's a consolation prize.
Yeah, G2 get the Baron for themselves. It was Perkz that ended up getting it. I was a little excited about the prospect of an Irelia turning up in a team fight where everybody's low health already, because look, Expect has found the engage, Pridestalker and Betsy kind of forced away, and I'm like, okay, this is the time. Phaxi, look, you can get Mithy, you can get Perkz. Perkz just manages to get it. Unfortunately, forget that this Irelia is like 1 and 4 at this point in the game. And Phaxi doesn't quite have too much more. Good job of killing Trick, but the rest of G2 were there and able to take down the Baron.
Yeah, I mean, and Perkz started that fight off by just total sombreroing the shockwave, and then he makes up for it by like securing the Baron when both junglers are down. Pridestalker, he's caught, trying to get to that blast cone. Oh, he just can't get there. It's not fair, man. Oh, now he's got it.
Mithy gave him a hand. They were 15 seconds off the earliest Baron, I've been told.
Fnatic looking on. If Roccat, of course, closes this series out, which is looking very unlikely at this exact moment in time, Fnatic will be locked that first seed. And I think for the time being, they're having fun ahead of their match against NIP. G2 marching down on 3 lanes. See if they can close this out and send us to a game number 3.
And of course, Roccat getting even the 1-game win does make it more difficult for G2 on game difference to get that first place spot. really, Fnatic will be looking at their own series. As nice as it would be to close out first place by having Roccat do the deed for you, Fnatic will just say, okay, all we got to do is beat NIP. That should be, in their minds, easy. And in goes Trick.
There we go. Double shockwave. That's a lot of damage on Pridestalker and Hjarnan. Wadid is trying to keep everyone healthy, but Mithy is still going to get a finishing blow onto his opposite number, onto Pridestalker, I should say. Now, Expect is looking to go in. Narvar nearly complete here. Trick, Mithy, Perkz all a little low, but they are all staying alive, and they've cracked open the base, turning onto this inhibitor. Roccat desperately trying to respond. There is a chance to fight it out. Expect is going to get that fadeaway boulder toss, and they won't be able to finish inhibitor just yet.
What a different game to game one. Game one, a game where Roccat had the earlier game. They had the Renekton, they had themselves the Kalista, looked to be building major leads. Game two, G2 say, okay, no Kalista for you. We'll pick the Gnar ourselves in this game, not ban it away, and you play the counter matchup, and that's great. We'll camp you. And we're 23 minutes into the game, and G2 look on the verge of closing it out already.
Yeah, it's a 9,000 gold lead. You've got 13 kills to the 2. And yeah, we have seen in the past, when Phaxi dies a lot, sometimes Rockets still win.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Get to 13 deaths, and the 13th one's the charm.
Hey, the win conditions are starting to pile up. You've got Phaxi approaching that death count. You've got the Ardent Sensor. You've got Hjarnan having one of the team's
Sivir.
2 kills.
He's
50%, yeah, like all the tools are there for Roccat. So as unlikely as it seems, Stress, there is always that possibility.
That still goes down in history as one of the silliest games that I think I've watched. Watching Phaxi on the side lane, like a 0-12 Jarvan, take in Soaz and Reckless of Fnatic, and then suddenly the rest of Roccat pushes through the base, and Phaxi's like, I did it. That was my job. Done. You won the game. Let's go game 3.
Yeah. Now it's Expected on that side lane. The rest of Roccat
they want to go.
Chase down. They know that there is no Gnar here. However, stun is out. Let's see if they can take down Trick before it all ends. The hook comes in. Oh! 3. Perkz is a monster. And it looks like G2 might be able to turn this on. Trick goes forward. He might die for it, but he takes down Pridestalker in the end. But did Hjarnan both low. Flashes, and it's scattering right now as Roccat are trying desperately to get away, but the teleport is coming in for Expect. G2 trying to cut them off, chasing them back to the wrong tower. Zven doesn't even care. He's on the base right now. Uncontested. They can just stop these backs by sending them back to Found the Fast Way. Perkz is going to get 2 more. Looking for Wadid to make that a triple. The Gnar into the wall. Nowhere for him to go. There is the triple, and it's 25 minutes. G2 looking to close it out.
Zven's been pushing the entire time, looking to just push for the win here, waiting for the rest of his team. Doesn't want to commit to it himself, as Phaxi is alive. G2, that shockwave was disgusting.
Phaxi, he is desperately trying to keep going right now.
3-level advantage.
Yeah, that shockwave that Perkz has is insane. Zven is big on this Tristana as well. But the carries have started to fire on all cylinders. And this does not look like a 25-minute game. This looks like the kind of thing you see with double that time. Phaxi is not going to give up, though. Not that easily. He's got 1 kill and 6 deaths. He wants to make it 2.
Zven giving them the old chase here at this point.
Oh, he took the wrong way.
He might actually just kill Pridestalker here, and then kill...
Oh, my goodness. Okay, belly bop. Zven. What? No, don't end it now.
Well, Zven doesn't want to get killed. He's got his heal. He knows that all he's got to do is try and stack up some Warlords and jump out.
Oh, no,
he's dead.
2v1. Okay, so that's a 3rd kill for Roccat.
Flashbacks to game 1. He's like, it's not a Morgana this game, but they found me.
Yeah.
They got me.
The Janna gank.
The Janna gank.
Okay, they're back on Baron, or Dragon, I should say. Jesus, can't get my objectives right this game because it's just been all over the place.
Neither can Roccat, I'll be honest. They have struggled to get into a position to do anything with a composition, and I'm not trying to fire shots here. I'm just saying this composition is a difficult one to pull off. We all the way through a tank meta, we have talked about disengaged split push compositions are reliant on a side lane threat and the ability to disengage from the fight, and neither has been able to happen in this game. Roccat have constantly been engaged upon, they haven't been able to disengage, and their side lane threat was shut down early on. Betsy, he's trying to push out the side lane. He might get a tower here. Betsy will think that's a win in his mind.
I mean, when you can't push out anywhere, it's hard to get those objectives, so he does get one, but he gives his life for the effort anyways, tries to stay alive as Mithy takes the kill. But there's not a whole lot else Roccat can do in this situation.
Only the 2nd tower that has fallen in favor of Roccat in this game.
They're on their way.
They're getting there.
They will not be perfect games, Stress.
Well, no. We're a long way away from a perfect game, Devin. 2 towers.
3 kills.
Return of the King at this point.
Great movie. Both of them.
Apart from the long ending, it didn't need to go on that long, much like this game. It just, you keep getting the bit
it's
where...
27 minutes. Calm yourself.
I know.
All right, but G2 are looking to grant your wish to push this one in. We would be going to game number 3, trying to make up for what happened in the first. And Jarv in, Jarv out. Trick does not want to fully commit to that one. On the hunt is popped by Hjarnan, but they're not going to fully commit to it just yet. The tornado catches no one. Phaxi looking for a flank around the side. Shockwave almost deletes Hjarnan. The spell shield comes in a smidge too late, but he is going to be able to save his own life as Trick goes in. And it looks like Roccat are still pretty excited about this.
Wadid is actually shouting at Janna, I saved you, at that point, using like everything. Roccat are having a little bit of fun with it. They know at this point, this game is likely out of their reach, but we must keep in mind, Rockat's performance in game 1 was stellar. Roccat looked very strong, and in a game 3, if they can get their hands on a similar composition, this is by no means a joke of a series. Like, this is still, G2 need to close this out. Roccat have been a formidable opponent in game 1.
Yep, they're trying to stay alive, even in game 2. Despite the fact that the odds seem stacked against them, G2 are unable to really find this ending fight. Base in shambles, Roccat, hang on. Now the Baron is on the menu for G2, though. That might be just the thing the doctor ordered.
And this is why it's difficult for Roccat to come back, is somebody had to clear that wave in the bottom side. That somebody ended up being Hjarnan, getting farmed, trying to desperately get himself to one more completed item before a fight. That allows G2 to get the Baron, and G2 will recall, buy items, and just run back down towards the base of Roccat and look to make one more team fight play to win the game. They got a 13,000 gold lead. There is one fight that separates Roccat from a loss in game 2 and resetting going towards a game 3.
But despite how big that difference is and how far behind Roccat have been throughout this game, it always feels like they just might have it in them to turn a fight. And there are tools there. You talked about the Ardent Sensor. It is, of course, I guess the biggest win condition.
It makes the effective gold lead for G2 only 9,000 when a shield is active from Janna, right?
Absolutely.
There's that 4,000 gold efficiency.
There's some key things that have to happen if Roccat want to win, right? Like, Zven is a target to shut down, but I think the real threat right now is Perkz, because shockwaves are looking monstrous.
Yes.
He's 10-0.
He's 10-0. He's going to have the locket with the stone plate from Jarvan. We haven't touched much on the item since the early game. This is the point where Maxlaw says Trick has already won the game because he got stone plate locket the fastest. Maxlaw basically goes to the school of jungling thought on tanks that it's whoever just gets those items fastest wins the game immediately.
What does he think about Ardent Sensor, though?
Probably hates it. Probably hates it.
All right, Expect wants to go in. He does get the Mega Gnar, gets a few hops. Gets pushed back, though. No more inhibitors, really, for Roccat in this game. The last one being fired down, but Trick finds himself isolated. Roccat still has this unit, trying to hold strong.
The bottom inhib did respawn as well, so G2 will need to go and take that down. But I mean, it's a matter of time at this point. They can move down through the base. Roccat got one last fight!
Pridestalker goes on in, and it looks like Trick's going to tag his way. The jungler's having a massive impact in this fight. Shockwave flashed away from Hjarnan, still takes the damage as Trick deletes Betsy off the map. G2 are looking to close this one out. All they need to do is finish off the Nexus turrets, and the Nexus itself. Roccat are tenacious. They will not go down without a fight, but they have run out of time. And at 30 minutes, G2 looking for redemption. G2 still hunting for that #1 playoff seed. G2 smashing everyone against that wall. And Perkz is definitely a legend in this game, as G2 with 23 kills will finish off the Nexus and take us to game number 3.
The even series is where we find ourselves between Roccat and G2. I think that's the G2 people were expecting in this series. Expecting a strong performance out of them in game 1. People will question what went wrong with G2. It was actually Roccat playing well in game 1, but G2 playing well in game 2 of this series. And they played well around the game plan of Roccat, and that's the key thing, is camping the Irelia top lane to turn the matchup in their favor, getting key victories on the bottom side of the map as well, and denying any objectives out of Roccat. But you can see Roccat unfazed by a loss here, will go back, reset for a game 3. Looking quite happy despite a loss.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, there's nothing on the line for these guys. They can only really ruin G2's day. But so far, so good. Even if it's 1-1, we've got a 3-game series.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very exciting finisher.
And you have to wonder, like, there are very few negatives to come from a series like this for Roccat. You now get another game against 3-time champions. You get a Game 3 scenario where if you do the same as Game 1, everybody suddenly remembers for 2 times in a year you beat G2 in the last week of the split.
Going to make the playoffs, everyone's still gonna love you.
And, yeah, exactly. That's why I actually think the Game 3 is beneficial for Roccat. I want to see performance like Game 1. G2 looked very strong in Game 2.
Well, we will find out. But G2 came back with a dominating performance in Game 2. So we got to ask the analysts, what do you guys think about their win?
I think their win was phenomenal, Pyra, but it might have been a little too late because they lost Game 1. They kind of gutted their own chances at still getting that first place spot in the group. However, good bouncing back from them in that second game, and we want to take or put attention on the top lane because there was the fabled Irelia counter pick to Gnar coming out of Phaxi. However, it didn't play out quite that way.
Yeah, so I want to take this opportunity to break down some of the stuff that happened. So the thing about Irelia into Gnar is she has a lot of mobility, and because of the stun that she has available to her, that's what makes her a really strong trader in the 1-versus-1 matchup. Now, what you're seeing on your screen is Phaxi using his Q to jump onto Expect. And for any Irelia players at home, this is a very dangerous thing to do because while your Q is a gap closer, it's also one of your escaping tools. So typically when you're trying to trade against someone, you want to jump onto a minion rather than onto the enemy champion unless you can go in for the all-in. Now, what you'll see here from Expect is as we start to run out the clip, Phaxi's already used his Q into a wave full of minions that are all hitting him, and then he uses his E, the slow, which he can't stun Expect with because he's lower health than Phaxi is, to only slow him while he's underneath the tower, so he ends up taking a tower shot. Now, Phaxi's just taken a full minion wave of damage, he's ran out of escapes, he's ran out of CC, and Expect is really good at chasing targets because of how Gnar works. So as we run the rest of the replay out, what you're going to see is things that you should not be doing on an Irelia. And when you pick an Irelia champion and your whole goal is to be able to win out on this 1v1, making these kind of mistakes really isn't acceptable. Not acceptable.
I would go even further and say mistake you don't want to make on any champion is trade into a whole heap of minions plus take some tower shots because you're rarely ever going to win that trade. If we look in the big picture of things, how much do you think that this single kill and the advantage for Gnar very early on directed the rest of the game?
I don't think that this was the turning point that started the snowball for G2. I think it really hurt because, as you heard from the casters, one of the win conditions was relying on this Irelia side lane, but it became harder then, right? Because Irelia has a big spike once she hits Trinity Force. She has a very powerful side lane threat against the Gnar, and once they lost that, you're now relying on mid or bot to become a big snowball factor. But as we bring up the next replay and you're looking at another potential win condition lane, that's where things really start to fall apart for Roccat. And
G2 wasn't messing around.
No, G2, this is what happens when they're angry. Zven and Mithy, they realize that the TP is coming in. Roccat did the best that they could to get the damage down, but clutch shielding with clutch flashes and jumps allows Zven to get away. Phaxi overcommits once again, and that results in Expect being able to get the counter TP along with the counter gang. Along with the fact that mid was pushed in by Perkz and he's already roaming down with Trick, you can see that the whole team of G2 were ready for this kind of a play and were reacting to it much faster than Roccat were, enabling them to not only now have a winning top lane, but a winning bottom lane as well. And it doesn't matter what Betsy does at this point because you're now against 2 losing side lanes.
And night and day difference from G2 that we saw in Game 1 in terms of reacting and in terms of being ahead of the play. Although it was relatively even in Game 1 for the early game and Roccat then slowly took the lead in this one, G2 was just very, very far ahead from the start of the game.
Yeah, I was impressed with how G2 played overall. They knew exactly what to do with the lead. The moment they took bot tower, they moved it top. It was just tower after tower. Their objective control was clean. Trick wasn't overextending and dying. And I think that Game 1 was just a bit of lack of respect from G2, a common trait that we are seeing from top teams against Roccat. But at the same time, they cleaned up the mistakes they made in Game 1. They didn't give Hjarnan a comfort pick, and you can now see the difference between the two teams.
Yeah, I do want to come back to that possible lack of respect in just a bit, but let's take a look at our last replay because, as you said, the snowball was started, but this is where it stopped or it completely rolled down the hill and, you know, hit everyone in its path because with Baron, and the teamfight win after. There wasn't much for Roccat to do.
Yeah, you summed it up nicely, Sjokz. This was pretty much the end of the snowball for G2. There was very little that Roccat could really do to answer it. G2 is so far ahead, and the best they could hope for was try and steal away the Baron. They were able to get one last game with a bit of a clutch play, and unfortunately for Roccat, they could not make it happen this time round. And one of the men you do have to highlight was Perkz. You can definitely see what happens when he has a bad game 1, but then shifts his mentality going into game 2.
They almost seem more sad, even though they're playing around a bit, than after game 1, which they lost to Roccat, because maybe now it's sunk in then, damn, we can play so clean, we can play so well, but we've made it so difficult for ourselves to get that first place spot. By dropping that first game, it was like they weren't completely there in their mind or something in game 1. And that's something that you do have to critique G2 for.
I think that G2 are a vocal team that when they make mistakes, they're extremely communicative about like what went wrong and how they can fix it. But when they have such a convincing victory, I think they feel a lot more relaxed about it. And they're like, okay, that's what we should be doing. We just need to keep this consistent now moving into the next few games. And I think that for a while now, having chatted with Zven, they were pretty convinced that they were locked in for second. The fact that getting first was there, but extremely unlikely not in their control. I think they accepted the reality that they're in.
Vedi, I do have to contest that, because now it's very difficult, because Fnatic has to lose 0-2, G2 has to beat Fnatic 2-0, but the chances were more palpable beforehand, so why would you not work to give yourself that chance?
Well, of course, yes, they want to give themselves, but having Mithy on the desk last week going, I think it's impossible for NIP to beat Fnatic, along with the fact that G2, based on their recent performances, I think that they can gain a lot of value from playing in the quarterfinals as well, playing a few extra games and all that jazz, but I think...
you make valid points.
Yes, I think that G2 are not going to be too upset about their first game loss, and I think that, as Carlos loves to say, a loss is another opportunity to climb the ladder of success.
That it is. Well, we'll see what happens in game 3. G2, they managed to strike back. They do need to win the next game to stay in the fight for the top spot. Meet us back here for game 3 after the break.
Got team composition, and the crowd is pumped for this matchup. We will see how it all unfolds as we get ready for game number 2. This is trouble. Oh, no. Blind first blood. Expect. Bottom lane right now. Knock the... No! Tristana back! He's out! And he's out, but Phaxi wanted to finish it. Mithy says, get back over here. For that, he burns the flash. Roccat aren't done. They turn over to Cancel. Ricochet! The ricochet trick. And he's one more shot. You heard it right now. Phaxi's trying to go for it. It gets taken out by Perkz. It looks like they're not going to finish this fight, though. Phaxi, nowhere for him to go. Still hunting for that #1 playoff seed. G2 smashing everyone against that wall. And Perkz is definitely a legend in this game, as G2 with 23 kills will finish off the Nexus and take us to game number 3.